The story opens as we see Captain America, Iron Man, and Hawkeye locked in fierce combat with the infuriated and freshly infected Hulk. Wondering just what they were going to do, our man Clint did his first useful thing in this whole series by revealing a series of tranquilizer darts that he had in case Thor had ever gotten out of control. Considering they were dealing with the Hulk, the man tripled the dose and fired the arrows in the hero's mouth like a sleepy time Pez dispenser. As the tranquilizer's effects brought the Hulk to his knees, the men thought they were victorious. That is until his rapid metabolism burned them right off and only made him angrier as he lunged at the men, ready to turn them into lunch. Both Steve and Tony used all of their might to hold off against the monster's fists, only for Cap to be tossed aside, leaving Iron Man at his mercy. Quickly being pinned down, Stark attempted to speak to the humanity still within the Hulk, which must have somewhat worked, as the brute slammed him into a nearby building, as opposed to turning him into paste in the streets below. Barely alive, Tony and the rest wondered what they were going to do against this rampaging titan, where out of nowhere, they were greeted by a familiar weapon. This weapon being Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor. As the hammer crashed into the Avengers Tower, we then see the mighty and seemingly cured god of thunder descend from the skies where he engaged the zombified Hulk. Seeing their friend alive and well, the heroes wondered just how this was possible, but they did not have time to speak as the giant quickly recovered from this blow and was out for round 2. Grabbing the monster by the face, Thor told Banner they were not his enemy, much to the unease of the men, as the dude had just been cured and now reinfected himself. Typical himbo move. We still love you, Thor. However, we would see that things were perfectly fine, as a freshly awoken Black Widow would emerge, also cured, and reveal to her comrades that both her and Thor were also immune. We then see this was all due to the work of Bruce Banner and Dr. Amano in the previous episode, where Banner had managed to inject Thor, Nat, and Amano before becoming infected himself. Knowing they needed to end this threat, Thor used his otherworldly strength to hold the Hulk back, where Natasha jumped in and dumped a vial of antivirus into the monster's mouth. Almost instantly, the medicine's effects went into action, where we see Hulk revert back to his human form. One nightmare finally over. Regrouping, the Avengers worked on a plan, as there were still countless undead roaming the streets that needed to be cured, as well as War Machine, who was still missing after the attack on the bunker. Tony then informed Nat and Thor how he and the rest were also infected, but were saved by the mysterious yet friendly Dr. Jasper Scott from the previous issue. This instantly brought Dr. Amano to alert, who questioned if she just heard things correctly. Asking just what happened with this man, Tony told the woman that Jasper had crafted his own version of the cure, which they now had a copy of to reproduce and save the remaining citizens. Horrified, Amano told the heroes not to move, for she had to analyze this supposed cure for herself. Panicked and covered in sweat, the scared scientist studied the sample and said that it was even worse than she could have imagined. Mere seconds later, we see Iron Man, Captain America, and Hawkeye all keel over in pain, with Thor asking just what was going on. As Natasha went to check on Clint, Amano pleaded with her not to touch him. We then discover that this cure Jasper gave these men was no cure at all. It was a brand new strain of the virus, one they had no idea how to cure. Almost immediately, the trio began their monstrous transformation into walking Chitauri time bombs. Despite countless tests, nothing Banner did would help, as his antivirus had no effect on this new strain that Jasper had created. With Tony still maintaining a positive attitude, cracking jokes at the thoughts of turning into a rotting alien monster, Bruce began to put the pieces together, for he knew there was still information that Toshiko was hiding. Asking more about Jasper, he took notice to the letter J necklace she was wearing, knowing it stood for Jasper, and demanded to know what her relationship was to this madman. Amano then reveals that the virus was created by accident, and that she was ready to bear the full responsibility of its creation, when in reality, all of this was started by her younger brother. That brother being Jasper. Tony, of course, being Tony, called this out for making no sense, as Amano was Japanese and Jasper was Eastern European, where she then cleared up the confusion by informing them that he was her half-brother, as they had different mothers. She then gives the much-anticipated backstory to this virus, where we learn that both her and Jasper were studying Chitauri alien cells not long after the events of the first Avengers movie. In a horrible accident during these studies, Jasper was slicing through the alien matter with a specialized blade, which mistakenly slipped, causing the man to slice off several fingers. Initially horrified, this panic quickly turned to amazement as the Chitauri matter on the knife had made its way into the open wound on Jasper's hand, causing the fingers to instantly regrow. Astounded, he and Toshiko believe they may have just saved the world as they discovered the secret to tissue regeneration. Things would soon take a sinister turn though, for when they began to test this out on mice, they quickly turned into zombie-like creatures like we had seen earlier. Seeing this virus as too dangerous, Amano believed it should be disposed of, where Jasper, on the other hand, had urged the experiments to keep going. Somewhere along the way, his entire countenance changed, no longer seeing this as medicine, rather a weapon that he could use for power. With Bruce asking Toshiko how she could let this obvious supervillain behavior continue, she told him that Jasper had tricked her into believing his research on this virus was over, when in fact he had been working on things in secret. With Amano vowing to find her brother, Tony said they would all help her, and remembered Jasper's last words to him, which were that he had unfinished business to take care of. We then witness just what this business was, where we are taken to the New York streets, where we see a large truck parked right in the middle of traffic. A rightfully angry pedestrian would then yell at the guy for doing this and would approach the vehicle, where the driver would pull out a gun and shoot the man right in the neck with some kind of dart. This dart would be a full-on injection of the zombie virus, where the man would scream in pain as he transformed before his very eyes. The driver of this truck would of course be revealed as the twisted Jasper, who was transporting a small army's worth of zombies that he planned to use to spread this virus even further throughout the city. Things then cut to Tony Stark, who had a nightmare about his life similar to Steve from the last episode, where he was awoken by a fresh slap to the face from Bruce, who told him to keep it together and not go full zombie just yet, as they needed his help. While things did seem bleak, there was a shining glimmer of hope, as Dr. Amano had managed to hack into Jasper's computers, where she and Jarvis were able to pull up the entire data file for this new strain, allowing them the tools they needed to create a new antivirus. This victory would soon be cut short though, as Jasper had gotten through Tony's systems and broadcast himself throughout all of Avengers Tower, congratulating Toshiko and Bruce's intelligence on cracking his code. With a delighted smile, He would tell the group that they were sadly too late, as the end of the world had already begun. He then panned the camera over, displaying his hordes of undead feasting on the terrified residents, turning this virus into a full-on zombie pandemic.